Today I want to talk about kids at public play events. So as far as children coming to public play events, there are a couple of things that I want to talk about. One is adults, two, younger children, and three, just kids in general. As far as adults, a lot of times at public play events, I'll get adults that come in and say, oh, I want to sit at a table, but I don't want to sit at a table with any kids. My response is, I don't care. If you want to play, if I have the only seat I have is at a table where kids are playing, you can either sit there or you can go home. I don't move people to accommodate people who are, I'm going to be blunt, jackasses. And if you're coming to a public play event and you think that you can designate what type of people you want to play around, you're wrong. You cannot do that. It's an open event. Children are welcome. I mean, I personally am happy to see kids come and picking up the game. And as far as adults that don't want to play with kids, I can only think of a couple of reasons they don't want to. One, they know that they play like jackasses, they're inappropriate, and they're going to say things and can't control themselves. If that's the case, grow up, control yourself, don't be a jackass. Two, they don't like kids. Well, the response to that is tough shit. If you don't like kids, don't go to public play events. The reality of it is, a lot of times, the kids that I see playing at the tables are more imaginative than the adults playing at the tables. They're more in the role play, they're more into having fun with the characters, they'll ask more questions, they'll get more involved. It's definitely almost always the adults that are going to be the murder hobos, the ones that don't want to actually role play, that, you know, are not good players. I mean, in my experience, kids have generally been some of the best role players at the tables that I've played with. So, you know, I really don't care. If an adult comes in and they don't want to play with kids, there's a good chance I'm going to tell them, you can either sit there, if that's the only spot, or go home. I really don't care if they play, because they've already told me they're a jackass. Now, as far as young children, and this is directed at parents of young children, if you have a young child that wants to play, my advice is sit at the table and play with them. And if your answer is, oh, I'm not interested in it, I'm going to just drop them off, we're not there to babysit your children. You need to come in and sit down with your kids while they're playing. If you can't do that, then, and let's face it, anything could happen at the event. Your kid could decide they hate it and want to go home. You know, there are all kinds of things that can happen that a dungeon master or whoever's running the table shouldn't have to deal with. So if your kid gets upset, the DM shouldn't have to deal with it. You need to be there with your younger children to play. My daughter started when she was 8. At the time, we had just started playing, and this was during 4th edition at expeditions, not at expeditions, but at encounters, with the 4th edition encounters, and she was learning the game system. I made sure she was occupied if she started getting bored, which she didn't, and I'll go into her a little bit more in a minute. But I made sure that she did not disturb people at the table, that she wasn't disruptive. If there came a time when she didn't want to come, which she's a kid, and there were periods of time when she didn't want to, then I would leave her home with her mom. I never made her play. I was always like, she came to me and said, do you mind if I play? I want to learn to play the game. I said, awesome, because I've been playing my whole life and I thought that was great. She played. She was kind of funny to play with. The first couple of years, it was always play a rogue, and she's always like, I'm going to be stabby stabby. That meant she was attacking somebody, you know. She just had fun playing an elven kind of crazy rogue, and she role played well, and the people at the table enjoyed it. Now, the only thing that was sometimes kind of naughty on her part, she decided to play a healer one season, and somebody kind of got on her nerves, and they needed heals. They're like, oh, I need healing, and she said, beg for it. And so, you know, it's a kid, it's a girl, and a young girl all together. That's kind of what you're going to get. But people laughed and everybody had fun. Nobody quit at the table. If I would have placated the assholes that came in, saw her, and didn't want to play at a table with her, then that would have been me being a bad parent. But the reality is I always sat there with her and I played. And if you're an adult that has a kid that wants to learn to play, even if you haven't played, sit down and play with them until they're old enough to be left unattended. And honestly, that's really until they're like 12 or 13. You shouldn't be leaving your young kid at the table with people you don't know. That's irresponsible. Now, older kids, and that's kids personally up until 15, 16, they're fine. They, you know, and the same adults have a problem with playing with these kids as well as young kids. And again, the teenagers, the younger ones, they're usually better role players than the adults are. So a lot of times they're more fun to play with. And, you know, I encourage kids to play. I don't mind when a group comes in. I have some DMs that necessarily don't like having a bunch of kids sit down, but I tell them, look, if you're going to volunteer for public play events, that's what you have to do. You run it, or I'll find somebody else to run the table. I mean, it is what it is. You're there to have people young and old start playing the game, learn to play, and have fun. And if you can't deal with that, then you shouldn't be DMing. But the fact that kids are coming to play, I always think that's awesome. I think it's a great thing when they're coming in, learning the game, especially when they enjoy it and they're coming back week after week. I mean, I have kids at this point after years that I've basically seen grow up because they've been at the table that long. And, you know, as a DM, it's fun to see the kids grow up. It's fun to see them develop as players, and it's fun to see them grow into young adults. But, you know, kids, I'm all for it. Kids playing, coming to the table, it's an awesome thing. And nobody should have a problem with it. But, you know, and if you're a kid and you want to play, don't be shy. Go to the store. Almost every DM in store is going to be just like me, where they're going to say, if there's an adult says, I don't want to play with kids, they're going to say, tough, leave. They're never going to send you home if you're a kid, because we love to see people coming into the game, especially something you can do for the rest of your life. Well, that's it for today. Remember to like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know about your experiences playing with kids, if you started as a kid, all that kind of stuff. And we will see you next time.